Welcome to Virtual Voices, a series of webinars hosted by United Nations World Information Transfer focusing on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, to promote science-based news on health and environment. Today, our speaker is Mr. Maxwell Cohen. Maxwell kindly accepted to speak today. He's a co-founder, CEO, and president of Peel Away Labs. While at the University of Arizona, Cohen noticed the inconvenience of changing bed sheets for older adults. He then created the Peel-Aways. He secured $1.3 million in funding partnerships with major retailers like Walmart and Amazon. Mr. Cohen is a 2013 graduate in environmental and water resource economics. He also appeared on ABC's Shark Tank. So Maxwell, you have the floor.
Hey everyone, excellent to be here today. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm all about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is in my blood. Entrepreneurship is a wonderful thing to harness. And how do you harness it? There's a few ways, in my opinion. One, you're born with it. There's some folks that you meet that are just, you believe that they're ready to just take on the world, and that you can't really see them, working for, the flywheel of society, and they want to make a dent in history. So when I see things, I've been taught since day one to look at all the world and question everything. And when I was in college, I came to a conclusion that me, my friends, and people when I come home from college have this unique universal hassle, not specifically a problem. And I said to myself, there has to be an easier way. We all have to deal with this problem on a daily, if not a weekly basis. How do we solve a problem like this? And this is one of those mindsets of thinking like an entrepreneur. I believe everybody should think like an entrepreneur, but hopping on the entrepreneurial journey is this incredible roller coaster that not everybody, I believe, should be able that people could handle. But I'm here today to give you some tips and to give you a little bit of an explanation of some of these high level tips that allowed me to smoothly become an entrepreneur in my everyday life. So the story dating back to 2016 is when I was in college, I noticed that my friends rarely ever washed their bed sheets. When I came home from college during Christmas and holiday break, I noticed that my elderly grandparents had the same problem, but for different reasons. And so I thought to myself, all right, I see my life has this hassle. People that are 50, 60 years older than me have this hassle. There has to be an easier way. So I invented a bed sheet that has 5 peel-away layers. There you go. There's one fitted bed sheet that has 5 layers. So I like to keep things stupid, simple. You have a product, it's a simple solution. It's not rocket science, and it's very easy to explain to folks, from me to my college friends, all the way up to my 85-year-old grandparents, something that they could understand without it being too complicated. So when I first started the business, I knew nothing really about business. I knew nothing really about the target markets I was going after. And so the first things you do when you're starting a business to gain confidence, of course, that you're building something that's worth your everyday life, is I would start with an idea or a solution that takes about 45 minutes a week. Just start jotting down some ideas of this solution and how do you come up with it. Then spend 45 minutes every 3 days, which that is where you start getting the momentum. And those 3 days you're researching how to manufacture, what conventions should I go to, who can I find as a mentor or advisor to help me create this product. I've never manufactured anything a day in my life, but with the entrepreneurial drive that I believe is in my blood, I said to myself, I have to figure this out. And in the 21st century, it's very different than it was back in the day, where we could just Google things now. So everybody used to ask me, Maxwell, how did you figure that out? And I go, I Googled it. So use this new AI world, use the search engine world to solve and come up with solutions that you don't know the answers to. So basic things like minimum order quantities, EIN numbers, starting a business, barcodes. I didn't know anything about this, but I had to become an expert, and you have to become an expert incredibly quickly if you want to start a business efficiently. So when I first started, I went to the closest hospital to try and understand what fabrics are they using now. Because my conclusion was if it could be used in a hospital, it could be used anywhere. And so I wanted to start with the highest level use case and then go backwards, because I didn't want to start from the lowest level and then try and make it excellent for healthcare facilities, since I know they come with a lot of rules and regulations. So I went on to Alibaba, and this is 10 years ago, and bought a spool of what they were using, the fabrics that they were using in these healthcare facilities. And then I Googled, how do I get somebody to create prototypes for me? And I created introductions and to see if there was any warm introductions. So if there's anybody in my network that knew anybody that does things like this. And I started creating prototype number one. And let's be real, prototype number one was pretty awful, but we're on to something. And so up to date, to get to the product that I sell today to those major retailers and to healthcare facilities around the world, don't be discouraged. This is my 32nd iteration of the product. I'll repeat that again. This is my 32nd iteration of this one single product. And I like to keep things as simple as possible, but the more you become an expert in your field, the more you could start iterating and creating the product to be good enough. So I now have this mindset. Perfection is over here. Good enough, and then I'm sure everybody's heard of the word MVP, minimal viable product. The world needs something that's good enough to get it off the ground, to start testing it. So we started testing the product that we believe was good enough with folks that we thought were going to be our markets. And it turned out it was wonderful for so many markets I wasn't familiar with. And so back to building the product. All right, so now you have a product. What business am I in? Most people would say I'm in the bedsheet business, but if you refine it down, you have to understand what business are you technically actually in. We're in the textile business. So I made sure to find everything I can and read everything about textiles and find a convention or networking events of people in the industry to help me get smarter and faster. My next step after creating the prototype was to go to a trade show. And the trade show was for it was called Textiles, because that was the industry I decided I am in. And then I got very lucky, and this is one of my major points that I love to get around to people. You have to meet luck halfway. The way you get lucky is persistence and consistency, and then getting out there and seeing if you can meet luck halfway. I knew nothing about manufacturing, especially overseas. I met an expert at that convention that is still part of my team 9 years later today. And we built the business because this gentleman helped me build the product. And then so you build a product, and then what do you do next? You have to find a market that's actually going to spend their hard-earned money on something like this. So you do customer research. We like to say, get belly to belly with your customers. We want to understand, do they like it? Do they like the smell of it? Do they like the look of it? Do they like the taste of it? Do they enjoy the comfortability of the product, since I am in the bedsheet industry? Is this something that you would use from your potty training toddlers all the way up to taking care of somebody elderly? And the second we understood that there's many markets for something like this, we were very encouraged to start building. We understood our customers needed a product like this. When you build a business, the first things I tell people to do is create a list. You make a list of people that you believe could use your product. You make a list of people that you believe should use your product. And then you create a list of people that you believe need your product. And then you try and understand those people that need your product. I don't have potty training toddlers. I'm also not taking care of any elderly. So I needed to understand who these folks were, the messaging I needed to get across, the price point that would make it so it would be accessible to them. And then how often will they buy something like this? So don't ask your friends and family, do you like my product? Do you like the thing that I built? Because of course they're going to coddle you and say, yes, this is great, Maxwell. You're doing such a good job. So, I live in New York City. So what I tell folks to do is go up to 10 random people and ask them and tell them about your service or your product and ask them what their opinion is. And as a founder of a business, you have to be wonderful at sales too. So this is a wonderful experience to see how good are you at selling something to a stranger. So this is all part of entrepreneurship, public speaking, taking a risk, double downing on things that are, that are working in your favor. And then we could get to the hard side of business where you get rid of things and fire people real fast. That's a different side of business. So I just want to share a little document I put together about the mindset of a successful entrepreneur. So that was my journey in a nutshell. Right now, we work with major retailers and we have a large distributor that took over our business. And I like to explain to people, my business is not my baby. I repeat that. When somebody says their business is their baby, take a step back. Why do I say that? If my business was my baby, I would not take risk. Would you ever take a risk with your baby? So I like to put it to the side. My name is Maxwell. I do me, and then I have a business called Peelaways. Peelaways, I want to do what's best for the business, not what's best for me, not what's best for my baby, what I believe is best for the business. So I partnered with a big distributor in the United States because I believe that was what was best for my business. And that's what makes an entrepreneur, very, very in tune with today's society. You need to be up to date on what the best business practices are, and you need to be up to date with how your best business practices are. What have you learned? Can I break into the markets doing it myself? Or in my case, I learned that I needed a distributor to break into the healthcare market, at least in the United States of America. And I learned that over a course of years, and that's why I love to give these type of talks so you can learn these things quicker, faster, and smarter than I personally did. So I'm going to just share a document, and this is just an overview, just like how I started. I believe everybody should think like an entrepreneur, but taking the deep dive of becoming one. I joke around. I don't wish entrepreneurship against my worst enemy, and it's a joke. But it's incredibly hard journey. It's incredibly emotional. It's incredibly physical. People need to realize that business is a contact sport, and so is life. So you're taking two contact sports and putting them together. And I just want to do a quick breakdown of a few chapters of my ebook to show you what I put down on paper. Nothing is real until it's written down on paper, in my opinion. To me, the mindset of a successful entrepreneur starts with thinking like an entrepreneur. And what are the main things of thinking and being an entrepreneur? Being an entrepreneur, you are dropping everything you have known to start something new that maybe has never existed before. So you have these visions and you want to make them reality. And it sounds like almost like magic, but it is magic. Something that didn't exist, you make it exist. And the only way for it to exist is for you to execute. So everything is about execution. I know it sounds cliche, but cliches are cliche for a reason. So being an entrepreneur requires more than just having a great idea. A great idea, dime a dozen. It's about executing on that idea and acquiring the necessary skills to do this execution as properly as possible, as soon as possible. The longer it takes, you'll learn in the business startup world, every second counts. And then there's being an entrepreneur requires different mindset. And that mindset starts with embracing risk and embracing failure. I'll repeat that: embracing risk and embracing failure. I like to start this slide off where companies fail, people do not. So I'm sure you've heard the quote, fail fast. I like to change it around. Fail smart. It's almost like an oxymoron, but I like to say fail smart. If you fail smart, that means you understood that what you're building is not working, or maybe the way you're building it is not working, and you move on to something new, or you've learned from what didn't work and you learn from what did work. So back to embracing risk and failure. Business is a contact sport. You need to understand that you're building something brand new and that it requires a lot of moving pieces and a lot of unknowns. The unknowns are what you need to find out exist. So the hardest part of starting a business is knowing what to do tomorrow. So having a mentor or an advisor that could help you with the checklist, right? I need to get registered with New York State. I need to get an LLC. I need to create a bank account. These are all things that are normal business practices, but if you don't know they exist, it could be incredibly difficult for you, and it could require time to find out how to just do basic business practices. So being an entrepreneur is going to bring you outside your comfort zone. So you need to develop this mindset of to critically challenge everything that you see, to question everything, and understand that the statistics, this is how I cope with it, that the statistics are not on my side. What does that mean? 98% of entrepreneurs will fail in the first 2 years. Why would you ever go into that arena? But that's where entrepreneurs are different people, have a different mindset. I'll repeat, 98% of us, all of us, if we start a business within 2 years, that business will not exist. But that shouldn't discourage you. Companies fail, people do not. So some of the most successful entrepreneurs that I look up to, they've started many businesses before the one business that became successful that we're all familiar with. I'm sure we've heard those stories of, he was 50, or she was 50 when she started her business. I think Vera Wang was like 52 when she, became this big brand. I think Kentucky Fried Chicken, he was like 72 years old with 50 different businesses that failed, but one of them stick. Back to companies fail, people do not. Remember, failure is not the end. It's the opportunity to learn more and to improve. Being resourceful and adaptive. The world is changing constantly. The business world is changing even faster. 7, 8 months ago, AI wasn't part of a conversation. When we were talking about AI many years ago, it was called machine learning, and only a few people had access to it. Now everybody has access to this wonderful AI where you want to use it in your favor. And so if you're not using ChatGPT or anything that could be AI driven, learn to do it as soon as possible. But that's why I was saying you have to be resourceful and adaptive. This is just 6, 7 months old, but just when I started my business, everybody asked me, how did you know that? I Googled it. So what I like to tell folks is that in this new changing, ever-changing world, just go back to starting businesses 30, 40 years ago. There was no internet. There was no email. So that's the changing landscape, and it changes so quickly. I don't know how people started businesses with no email, no internet. That's a different story. We could get an older person to come on and explain that. I'm sure it's much harder than it is today. But you must become smart fast. You need to think smart. If you think you're fast, get faster. If you think you're smart, get smarter. But see how I'm this crazy entrepreneur. This is very new for people to understand. If you think you're smart, get smarter. If you think you're fast, get faster. This is critical when it comes to the mindset of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs need to be able to make decisions quickly and change things on a dime. So this is what we call a pivot. Pivots are where you see something that you're building a business, but maybe you learn so much about this business that you're building that there's a better problem that you need to solve, and that's where a pivot comes in. In my case, from personal experience, when I started my business, I was going after college students because I invented the product in college. But when I came home and started to understand that there's bigger markets for a product like mine, I pivoted my entire business model to focus on a market that I believe was better than the initial market I was going after. So what does the pivot require? At least in my case, I had to change the vibe and verbiage of my business. Now I'm going after folks that have problems that I'm not familiar with, and I have to become an expert in this field. So I went after college students because I just hated washing my sheets. I said there has to be an easier way. But people have hassles of changing their sheets for different reasons in different markets. So this market, the elderly market, will be a little crude. Sometimes they have accidents in the middle of the night. And so I needed to understand why these things happen, how they happen, and then how my product's wording could solve this problem. I know it solves it for college students, so I had to change my marketing materials to pivot to these markets because I understood this is the bigger picture. And let's be real, people start businesses to make money. I repeat, people start businesses to satisfy customers that are willing to pay for a service or product that you created, but to make money. And so being an entrepreneur, you're essentially a creative problem solver who tries to find innovative solutions even when they're faced with limited resources. So my favorite entrepreneurs use whatever resources they have and try and build something from that. We need to understand that success relies on just getting smarter and faster every single day. And then beyond that, once you start building something, you have to have a growth mindset. I'd like to say learn from, and this is why I love doing these webinars, is you get to learn from my learnings, my successes, and my mistakes. I love to learn from other people's mistakes before I have to make the mistake myself. So having a growth mindset allows you to be dedicated. You're excited to learn new things. You're not afraid of feedback. I repeat, you are not afraid of feedback. If somebody's crucial of your product or your service, thank them. Be excited that they're willing to be crucial. It's very hard to be crucial about somebody's passion that they're building. That's why I said go on the street and talk to 10 people you've never met before and understand their responses to whatever questions or problems that you're asking them about their opinions on the questions and problems. If you go to friends and family, my concern is that they will not be crucial about what you're asking them. Is my product good? Yeah, of course it's good. You're so sweet. I love you. And if a stranger saw it, no, I don't think this is solving a problem that I pay money for. And then so having the growth mindset essentially just means getting faster and smarter every day. Find a mentor. And growth mindset is a mindset that is every single day. You wake up wanting to get smarter. And as you are building the business, as you're coming up with an idea, how many people have started something and stopped? Yeah, I'm sure we could all raise our hands. I'm sure I'm guilty of it as well. So the next most crucial part of thinking and becoming an entrepreneur is passion and persistence. Starting a business you're passionate about is the easy way to continue your persistence. So when you're passionate about something, it's essentially what you love doing every day or you love doing weekly, so you can be persistent about it. Persistence is what drives entrepreneurs to success. I am relentless when it comes to trying to sell and build my sell my products and build my business. Just the example alone that I gave you, I've gone through 32 iterations of building this product. That took almost 2 years to get to a product that I believe was sellable. And I'm the first person to tell you, sell a product that's good enough. And so you've got to be persistent and you've got to keep building. So consistency and consistency are key when it comes to thinking and being and executing on an entrepreneur. And a wonderful aspect of being an entrepreneur is you want to start meeting people. You want to start networking. How? I will start it here. People do business with people they want to do business with. People do business with people they want to do business with. So if you meet somebody and they like you, if you meet somebody and they trust you, these are people you want to do business with. Business is incredibly hard because there's so many different types of people out there, and you have to get really sharp about working with people to help grow your dream. So you need to make sure that they share the same fire in the belly that you do, right? I wake up and I need to start executing. I need to start building. I need to, at this point, satisfy my customers. I want my customers to be engaged, but I also want them to be incredibly happy about the service and products that we're giving to them. So that helps me build my business, is reading the reviews that we receive from many of our customers, whether it's people reaching out to us directly, calling our office line, or putting reviews on our website or on Amazon. So you want to build a strong network. Back to people want to do business with people they want to do business with. So in many cases, I was a sole founder starting my business, but I recommend if you could find another person that shares the same drive and understands the same problem that you're trying to solve, and you want to bring them on as your team. So building a strong network is incredibly important. You might have started the business, you might have had the idea, you might have technically invented the product, but you're really good at doing that. So you want to find somebody who's really good at doing the other side of business. And I've learned that 80% of any business, whether you're selling bed sheets or software or anything in between, it just comes down to best business practices. And the other 20% are what you need to satisfy in that niche to build and grow your business. So if it's software, you're going to have to find engineers, coding, and understand that. Mine is textiles, so I need to learn everything in the textile business. But 80% of business is essentially just a checklist of things you need to check off. And all businesses, in my opinion, of those 80%, share the same checklist. So you go to networking events if you can. You join webinars to get smarter. You join Facebook groups to understand what people are talking about, and you search the internet to find trade shows that you believe you could get smarter at, that you could bring your products to and get real customer feedback or experts in the industry's feedback as well. So, you got to, my theory is it's the 21st century. Nothing should be difficult. And that is my mindset. So when I see something and it's difficult, I go, why is this difficult? It's 2023. There has to be an easier way. So that's what drives me in building my business and becoming a successful entrepreneur. I identify pain points in daily life. And as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking to see if there's any problems that I believe that could be solved. And this rolls into the next step of being an entrepreneur. You got to be very observant. You got to touch, you got to feel, you have to understand, and always be curious. You got to pay attention to the problems and challenges of people that they face in a daily life. What are pain points in your daily life? So when I coach folks, I always tell people, all right, we have no business yet, but you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to taste it. You want to start building something. And I like to tell people, it's 21st century. find something in your daily life, and this is my advice to most people that want to start a business that don't have an idea yet. So go through 2 weeks of your life and see what's difficult. And is it changing bed sheets that's difficult? Is it getting clean drinking water? I have a Brita, but I think there's a better way to do it. Do you think your shower gives, I'm just giving you my ideas. Do you think your shower uses too much water? Is there a way to make it less water? I think there's a better way to do, trash disposal. So when I see something that's difficult, I try and think of a way that I can create a solution for something that one of for something that I believe needs a solution. I'll repeat, I don't think anything should be difficult. It's 2023. And so you must be observant, see all the opportunities out there, and see if there's any problem that you believe needs solving. And then I already mentioned this, but it's getting belly to belly with your customer. So find people on the street, go to a trade show that's in your niche, find a webinar of people in your industry, and get belly to belly with your customers. So if you've gotten to the step where you've sold something to somebody already, somebody spent their hard-earned money on something that you built, I immediately, when I first started my business, would give them a call. Oh my God, you guys bought this product. Why did you buy this? I want to understand the data of why this person spent their hard-earned money to buy something like this. And I started learning that people were buying my products for children with special needs, buying my products for traveling in RVs and going camping. People were truck drivers were buying my products to put in the back of their cars because they have bunk beds. And so I needed to get and understand who these customers are. I repeat, you build a business to satisfy a customer that's willing to pay for a service or product that you've created. And so that person that bought your product, I would say strangely harass them and willing to learn as much as you can from this person because you want to create more people that will purchase and buy your products. So it's incredibly crucial to do market research and identifying business opportunities. I didn't realize people were buying my products to put in the back of a truck when they do long truck rides in the United States. And then I was thinking, I think there's a bed in the back of many of these trucks. So that allowed me to start executing. Wow, this is a wonderful market. Did some research on this market. There's 900,000 trucks that have beds on them that are driving every single day in the United States. I didn't even think of that being a market. But the only way I found out that this is an amazing market is that I was reaching out to people buying my products and understanding why and how they were using it. And so I started targeting, that industry, and that industry now really, really, really enjoys my products. Just like anything else, I like to say you gotta think outside the box. This is where you start, pondering solutions. But I like to also bring it back to its core. You need to know what's inside the box to understand how to think outside the box. And I know that sounds so simple. Yes, the people use bed sheets today. They have to wash them. They're relatively expensive. Most people have two sets. The packaging is beautiful. People buy these at retail stores. So I needed to know what was inside the box to start creating what I believe was outside the box, which was a brand new product nobody's ever heard of called peel-aways. I invented something brand new. I knew what was the traditional way of doing it, and I created outside the box of an untraditional way of changing a daily habit that, in my opinion, was the better way of doing something. And as I mentioned this before, solve your own problems, go through your daily life, take 2 weeks, have a pen and paper in your pocket at all times. I always do. I got my handy dandy notebook at all times in my back pocket, just so I could jot down an idea. You could do it on your phone, but make sure that if you have an idea pop up in your head, write it down. Take time to write it down. As I mentioned in the beginning, unless it's written down, it is not real. So you got to write things down to satisfy my opinion of making it real is to write it down and start collaborating with yourself. And then another great thing of starting a business is collaborating with your network. So who do you know now? Who do you believe can help you? And people don't understand, and it's a pretty scary notion. You're allowed to ask somebody to be your mentor. Many folks think, it's like a movie where somebody's gonna say, I'm gonna mentor you and help you become rich or help you solve a problem. No, in many cases, you have to ask somebody you admire to be your mentor. So do not be scared. If you find somebody that you really, really enjoy learning about, reading about, talking to, and you believe they could add value to you starting your entrepreneurial journey, I guarantee that they would be thrilled, if not admired, if you ask them, can you be be my mentor? And being a mentor, if you just ask me the simple definition, is that I could ask you any question. I could ask you something that I think is silly. I could ask you something that I think is a stupid question. I could ask you really challenging questions. Those are what mentors are for. Even if it's a stupid, silly question, it doesn't matter. I want to ask you and I want to get your professional opinion from it. Being an entrepreneur for 10 years, I've learned so many different lessons. When I first started my business, I used to get very worked up on little things. And then I realized these little things happen pretty consistently. So now I know these things are going to pop up. It allows me to cope with them sooner and faster. So the way I describe myself is when I used to have a business problem, and let's be real, there's a million moving pieces when starting a business, and more moving pieces there are, inevitably, the more problems can happen. So, for example, I had containers be late coming to the United States, and I used to get, panic attacks saying my customers are gonna hate us. Walmart's gonna do this. Why is this taking so long? Now that I've experienced this a few times, I now have a 15-day buffer before I tell my customer this product will be here. So that 15 days allows me to have products that are late for me, but they're not late to my end customer because I buffered those 15 days. And I realize these things happen all the time. So how do I solve this problem? One, I bring in more inventory per order. So I make sure to have more in my warehouses because I know the items are late a lot. And these are things that I can't control. This is just the boat gets stuck at ports. The boat gets stuck in the middle of the ocean. There's weather that's affecting things. And these are things I cannot control, but I want to control what I can control. You want to control what you can control, and you want to be able to help things that you can't control. So I can control, I could say the product will be here in 30 days. Not anymore. I now control that and say the product will be here in 45 days. I control how much inventory that I usually bring in. Now I bring in 15 to 20% extra. And this will solve problems that seem to arrive more often than not. I've also learned in business, people that you do business with don't always have the world's greatest intentions. So as an entrepreneur, you have to have a keen eye to hire and fire people very quickly and have a keen eye that these people are going to be beneficial. And you have to, kind of go with your gut that you believe these people are going to help you build your business honestly as possible. When money gets involved, business gets involved, some people, become very different than when you first met them. So just make sure to always have your head on the swivel and make sure that you are really good at hiring and firing people as quickly as possible. I've unfortunately had to hire and fire, 15, 20 people in my career, and it's not a fun process. It's very emotional. Now, being a founder, an entrepreneur for 10 years, I've tried to take out as much emotion as possible starting my businesses. Business is business. Business is a contact sport. You have to take out as much emotion as possible because emotion could get in the way of making best business decisions. I like to joke around. When I first started my business, I used to cry when I had to fire somebody. Just be real. It's not fun firing anybody. And then now, I've become more professional about it, where, we all understand that this is something that we need to do to be best for the business. So we did this because it's best for the business, helps me take the emotion out of doing things that I personally don't like doing. And then many folks say that, when you hire somebody, it's a reflection of yourself and your hiring practices. Just try and go with your gut, try and do as much research as possible. I like to give people 90-day trials. So instead of hiring somebody right off the bat, this is how I solved my hiring problem. I give people a 90-day, 3-month consulting. And if they do a good enough job, hopefully they do an excellent job, we'll hire them to become full-time working with us. Collaborating with your network is meeting luck halfway. I went through all of this already, but you got to meet luck halfway. Being on a call like this today, I'm already proud of you because you want to learn more about entrepreneurship. You want to learn more from somebody who started and built businesses in the past. I have a very unique stance on things because my family background is that we invest in startups as well. So I see from the investing point of view, I also see it from the entrepreneurial point of view. And so business and an entrepreneur is a lifestyle. It's where you have different preferences and different priorities than most folks out there. So you just make sure that your lifestyle can handle entrepreneurship. I like to say to people, start as young as possible. I don't have as many responsibilities that I'll have when I'm older. So if you have an idea, start now. Start yesterday. Start a month ago. Because the truth is, true success in a business will take anywhere between 4 and 9 years. I don't want to discourage anybody, but this is the long journey of entrepreneurship. And once you get that entrepreneurship bug, it's with you forever. So you might start one business and then start another one. You sell a business, you start another one. You might have one business and have a side hustle. You might have a business, but you think there's a better idea out there. So it becomes a lifestyle. And is it a fun lifestyle? It's a very unique lifestyle. It has its ups and downs. And it goes back to the original topic, risk. It's a very risky lifestyle. But as we all know, risk and reward. If you are the 2% of the 100% of startups that end up making it past year two, you're already onto the road to success. And many cases, businesses require outside capital or capital to start the businesses. I will be 100% frank. You will need capital to start a business. It's that old cliche, it takes money to make money. I like to tell people starting businesses, always have the bootstrap mentality, but never be cheap. If there's something that you believe can help you out and make you faster and smarter quicker, I would spend money on it. If having 10 people working for your business and you realize that they're not all working as hard as you need them to be, I always tell people, cut your operating expenses as much as possible. And then last but not least, before I just go into, hopefully taking some excellent questions, is the most important part about business is profit, net profit, margins, margins, margins. You make something for $6, you sell it for $30. You got to make sure you understand your numbers. The numbers are it is the most important part of your business. I've even come to the conclusion, I don't care what you sell. I only care about your margins and how many customers you have. So if you have 50% margins, that's a great place to start. But understand margins, profit, operating expenses, and all of and keep everything as organized as possible from day one. When you have to reorganize everything a few months later, you might have not realized how much money you've been spending, places that you could cut to cut your expenses. And then, are there customers that you're learning that are buying your products more than other customers? So knowing your numbers is one of the most important, aspects of building a business. I was taught to have my numbers in my front pocket at all time, have my budget in my front pocket at all time. Next to my handy dandy notebook, have your numbers right here. It is the most important thing to your business. Most businesses die or fail because they simply run out of money and they were not operating their numbers properly. They were selling a product that wasn't making them a big enough margin to run and build a business. And so I would be happy to take any questions, comments, and hopefully, these few minutes we work together, you learned a healthy amount of this is just the starting of a business. We'll get into in the future, building it, and raising capital for it, what people need to hear and see. But that is a different subject. This one is about embracing the entrepreneurial spirit, because that is the first step to becoming an entrepreneur, is knowing, one, how hard it is, and the few things on the checklist that you need to know immediately when you're jumping into this arena of entrepreneurship.
Max, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, you've even inspired me at my age to become an entrepreneur, but I don't think I have your stamina to do it. And you did mention a few older people who started very late in life and became successful. So that's, it's good to hear that as an inspiration. We have a lot of questions. I hope we can get through all of them before the end of the webinar. One question, and you actually answered a lot of them while you were speaking, but one was about recommending 5 tips on how to stay disciplined.
So that's where, there's a few ways. I mean, this one isn't specifically just a checklist, right? I was saying 80% of business is a checklist. The other 20% you have to go figure out yourself, and that's okay. But when it comes to being disciplined, that's where you're excited about what you're building. So that creates discipline. You start chipping away and you start seeing something turn into a reality. So it's not, in my opinion, discipline. It's what you're seeing is what you're doing, and your execution is working. So it just makes you want to keep doing it. It gets you so excited to wake up in the morning and be proud of yourself. So my discipline today is, I read my customers' reviews, and it just amps me up to get more customers because something I created is changing their life. But then there's different aspects of being disciplined where you could get a coach. You could get a mentor to make sure that they're on your tush. I put a big calendar up on the wall. I put big, bold words or things that make me excited. So I don't use the word specifically discipline. I try and wake up and try and think, if something excites me, it allows you to be disciplined no matter what. Discipline is almost like a negative word. So I try and look at the positives of everything. So I wake up excited, and that is my discipline.
And focused.
Oh, yeah. Well, as an entrepreneur, I have I probably have 30 tabs open. But but yes, being organized is my version of being focused. When you take the extra 2 or 3 minutes to, put that file in the right file, when you organize the business, create a mind map, that is what keeps me focused.
Interesting. So what advice can you give to aspiring entrepreneurs on identifying opportunities and navigating the path to success?
Well, that goes back to just every single day. Look at your daily life and see what's difficult. Things that are difficult for you, I guarantee are difficult for so many other folks. So it's just about being observant. So now change your mindset. If you want to start thinking like an entrepreneur, you start seeing things differently. And people don't understand. You don't have to create something brand new. I repeat, you don't have to create something that's never existed. In our world, we like to say iteration is the new innovation. So an iteration of something that already exists. Everything is very similar, right? So this was a great idea. This was a speaker. Usually speakers were not that powerful that were this size. So somebody created one that's incredibly powerful. This one could light up the whole room. So somebody just iterated on something that, they originally had a speaker that wasn't that good. And they said, I need to make one that's this small and this powerful. So many things don't have to be new. Do not be discouraged that you have to create something brand new. That's not how the world works. You create something that is a better version of the old traditional way.
Interesting. So what are the key challenges you face in bringing Peel Away Labs from concept to product that attracted major retailers like Walmart and Amazon?
Many of the challenges is there's a lot of moving pieces and there's a lot of standard operating procedures that you need to learn. But it starts all with the product. Do you think this product is excellent for these type of customers? And so when you're pitching, the Bed Bath and Beyonds, the Walmarts of the world, you have to learn their language and what they're looking for and what success is in their eyes. My version of success was very different than what Walmart's version of success was. Just pure, easy, quick example. Selling one piece per store per week is success in Walmart's world. That means one piece per store per week. So there's 4,200 stores that's selling one piece per store per every 7 days. To me, if you did that on my side of the business, I'd say, we're going to fail. This is awful business. But for them, that's what they want to hear. So you have to learn what they're looking for. Do you think that their customers are going to enjoy a product like yours? And then my mistake was I got so excited about getting into Walmart that in retrospect, I would have done it differently. And what would I have done differently? Instead of getting into every single Walmart store, all 4,200 stores, because that becomes one big cash flow crunch, right? I have to order all this product, and then, that's 120 days I don't get paid. So that's money out of my pocket. That's one. Two, that's a lot of stores. So I want to, if I did it again, I would go to Walmart and say, which one of your stores of the 4,200 are more geared to home care? Have more elderly customers that I believe will appreciate my products. And so in retrospect, I would have asked for the best 500 stores that you believe my products should be in. And they know which stores would be most, that would be best for a product like mine, right? So they know more elderly live near this store than that store. And then this is where they should put my products.
Interesting. We have so many questions. I hope we have time for all of them. But so one question is, reviews are very important for good products. So the feedback that you have received from, let's say, seniors and people with disabilities who have used your product, how does that affect, the outcome of the product?
Absolutely. So why do I have 32 iterations of the product? That's because I've gotten feedback from my customers. I've learned that a lot of elderly people that have incontinence that buy my products, they use vinyl beds, like mattresses. So it's not like the mattresses that we're familiar with. It's more of like a waterproof barrier on a mattress. And the problem with that is when you put a fitted sheet on more of a slippery surface, it comes off. Right. So I had to go through that and understand that, okay, how do I solve this? Because if this person's having this issue, I bet there's a few other folks out there having it. And this is an issue that I thought was great enough that I should solve. Right. I'm the first person to tell you the customer is not always right. I repeat that. The customer is not always right. But understand the ones that you believe are right, right? I had to invent this product. I had to say it was soft enough. I had to say it was waterproof enough. I had to say that it was easy enough to use myself to get it out into the market. And then I started taking customer feedback. So what did I do? I created a sheet that is tighter. So I made the elastic even tighter. I have now an anti-slip material, so it grips onto these vinyl mattresses, since I know that the market that I'm selling to have these problems where they have these mattresses that are more slippery than the traditional mattress that I grew up on.
It's very interesting. And I know you're starting another business with your brother, which probably is a learning lesson. You've had some learning lessons, and tell us a little bit about that, because I think that will also inspire the audience about, some of the questions were about how do you really start something? Do you need someone to start it with? Do you have a mentorship, or do you have a mentor who keeps you there while things are not going so well? So those are some of the questions.
Absolutely. So I just started, and it's very similar to what I'm teaching you guys today, because I feel that it took me 7.5 years to learn everything that I've learned. Good or bad, sad or good, I'm proud to say, and I'm going to look at the bright side of it, I would have built my business differently knowing what I know today. I'll be real, I was a punk when I grew up. I thought I knew it all. And now in retrospect, I wish I listened to some advisors. I wish I listened to some mentors. I wish I found some people that could teach me and I could learn from their mistakes. So my brother and I, we've been starting businesses for the past 10 years. And I've learned just being his brother, I am awful at directions. I really don't have a good memory either. And I tried to figure out what evolution of my life made it so I can't even, I don't know which way is north. I'm terrible at reading maps. And then I came to the conclusion, it's because my brother is amazing at directions. My brother has an incredible memory. So when growing up, I never needed to know directions. I never needed to remember it because I could go, Trace, what was that one time, that one thing? And instantly he would have it for me. So Trace, my brother's name is Trace, we came to the conclusion, you're really good at what I'm not good at, and I'm really good at the other side of it. So when I first started my business, I was a sole founder. That's probably why I learned things the hard way. I was trying to do things that I wasn't good at. I tried to become good at things, but in business, you have to be good at so many things. So this new business I'm starting is he's doing what he's good at. I'm doing what I'm good at. And of course, it goes back to love and trust. And I don't need to question the love or trust with a gut feeling. I know my brother. I know him better than anyone. And I know that we could work together very successfully. And I know that, business problems that happen with strangers, because everybody starts off as a stranger, we know that we could solve them amicably. We could talk it over, and we could come to the rightest decision at the moment.
So you're basically saying that partnership is very important in finding out what your strengths and weaknesses are and how to conduct the business successfully based on those strengths and weaknesses. And I'm sure a lot of the young people who listen to your webinar today have learned that hopefully the easy way, not the hard way. But in any case, thank you so much, Max. It was really inspiring, and I hope we can follow up. I really would love to have you and your brother on a webinar just to talk about maybe the entrepreneurship side of it as a collaborative effort, and also your father, who is one of the most successful angel visionaries in American history. So yeah, we hope to continue with that. And thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, everyone. My pleasure.